I just want to say that was Jamila's leg right there because. Also, today during church, could have sworn that as people were, speaking in tongues and everything, somebody said Masande. Alright, what's up everyone? So I'm here with Jamila, Mensah, and we just started Game of Thrones. We hopped on the bandwagon shamelessly, thanks to you, Cameron. Cameron provided us with the HBO password. I'm very grateful for that. Yeah, we hopped on the bandwagon a few weeks ago. I'd say maybe 3 weeks ago, right? Yeah, okay, cool. I usually have a bad sense of time. But yeah, 3 weeks ago, solely for typing purposes, because so many different people, clients, all of that, even you guys on YouTube would comment on my videos asking about some of the Game of Thrones characters and on Twitter and stuff, and I was just like, I don't watch the show. I never really planned to watch the show because, to be honest, I'm not into medieval kind of things, that type of era. And then on top of that, especially if it's very gory and stuff like that, it's okay, which this show very much is. But, for this, let's blame my social 9 FE Dom self. Wanted to partake in the conversation, and it's the last season. Last episode is playing tonight, so just wanted to hop into the discussion. And in this video, we're going to be sharing the insights, what we kind of thought about the overall show, and then at the end, we're going to just list off, without our reasoning, or too much of the reasoning, all of the types that we have for the characters that we've listed. And then if this video goes well, lands well with all of y'all, and y'all have more questions, then we'll have a later live stream together where if you guys want to discuss or debate some of the types that we've put out there. What did you think of Game of Thrones overall?
Overall, it was fine. I feel like I didn't really start liking it until halfway through the series. Well, once I found out that it was based on a book, I gave it a lot more leeway, because I kind of felt the same way I did about Harry Potter. It was I'll just be watching it and I'll just be I don't understand what anything has to do with anything. But then it's oh, probably because, there was so much from the book they had to cram into an episode or a season or a series in general. Once I found out about that, it was okay. It was a lot. A lot of characters, a lot of plots, even though obviously the more the farther you get into it, the more singular and linear the plot becomes. So it's okay, and I feel that's partially why I started liking it more too, actually, is because, I don't know, it just got less complicated as literally people were dying off, and you saw they're about to be with them, so then that's gonna be a thing instead of them being over here and them being over there, so it kind of all makes sense. The theme song is really long because they got all these people that they gotta show credit to. But what did I like about it? Well, honestly, my favorite thing about this show is Daenerys' outfits, because, and I feel this is a little bit of a spoiler for the MBTI types, but I just feel that's how you know that. I'm not going to say what kind of censor she is, but and Sansa, she glowed up. Jon Snow, he glowed up. My favorite character, I feel characters, because I didn't know if they were going to die or not. I think like my favorite characters now that I know that they're not dead are Tyrion and Samwell. I just think that they're just an honorable mention would be Arya. She be doing too much nowadays, but she's great. I just feel like Samwell and Tyrion, they're just honest, good people that they just need love. And yeah, and then there's a lot of other, good characters. Like, of course, Jon Snow, he's great. Sir Davos, he's great. Bronn is great in his own way. Varys, he's great. So there are a lot of really good characters. I just feel like consistently the only two people that haven't made me feel weird were Tyrion and Samwell. Like, I feel like have been consistently themselves from beginning to end, and they were always like good people, wanting the best for the world and for like the people around them. and we're always like honest about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess those are my thoughts about it. Honestly, I feel like they're not really that deep because I don't really see the show as that deep. But I mean, there's like the whole like, yeah, no, like I don't, which isn't a bad thing. I just feel like it's more entertaining than it is like, interesting, I guess.
I feel you. So yeah, my thoughts. Like I said, I don't like gore. I'm like high on the HSP empath kind of thing, and I probably covered my eyes for like maybe a good 30% of the whole entire series, or
whatever percentage you think there was blood. Maybe subtract 3 from that. And then
yeah, I closed my eyes, covered my eyes, stuff like that. It just hated it. I just really didn't like all of that, especially the abusive parts. Like, even if there wasn't blood, like just even like hearing certain people like screaming, like what Joffrey did to Tyrion's gifts to him, like that just really pissed me off, and it was just a lot. But I understand that that's how times were back then. It just gets me upset that that's how times were back then. But yeah, that's that. I also just really didn't like the seemingly senseless killing that kept on going on throughout the show. Like, just like Jamila said, like you never know when your favorite character is about to die off, so you better not get attached to anybody. You know what I mean? And it was crazy because like the good characters, a lot of the good characters are the ones that are being like killed off. And it would be like so sudden as well. Like sometimes you don't even know. Like you'll be thinking like, oh well, surely this person is not gonna go through with it, and the next thing you know, you see the head lying on the floor. And it was all a Game of Thrones to them. Like so that was something. And then I'm someone who is heavily repulsed by extremely impulsive people. You guys know this from my channel, but like those who do not have a center and they just like jump to action without even like thinking, and when they jump into action, then it's due off of like emotional, like the more negative side of emotions, like a bad anger, a bad rooted jealousy, stuff like that. And there were so many people in the show who had that, and it just stressed me out. I agree with Jamila that I feel like it's not that deep of a show. Not that there's nothing to glean from it. I feel like you can glean something from just about almost anything, but it's not that deep of a show, so I'm not gonna like dive like super deep, at least in my opinion. But one thing that I did pick up was that it was cool to see how there are good people even in the midst of like hundreds of like quote unquote bad people. And the reason why I even say like bad people is because I believe that there was a lot of bad people in the show, but then most of the people in the show, they weren't really like good either, but they were just like kind of like in the middle, like kind of like a relative sort of like depending on whose perspective that you look through, these could have been the protagonists. At times you find yourself rooting for certain characters that you're like, wait a minute, but aren't they the bad guy who is actually the bad guy in this situation? You know, it all depends on like whose story that we're seeing. The more that you become attached to certain people's stories, you know, like knowing like, oh, well, that's why this person acted that way, because they were a bastard, you know, or, you know, their father left them, and their mother did this, and, you know, stuff like that. Like, it makes you then have like compassion, or at least made me have compassion for those characters that I really disliked. And I had hope for certain characters to change. They ended up getting killed off. I really detested Joffrey, but I was hoping that, you know, in a later season, you know, we're only in season 2 or 3 something, he's gonna hopefully like grow up and realize like, no, what I'm doing is wrong. Nah, he died, still as horrible as ever, even worse.
Right, even his drawing breath, like, you don't know who poisoned you, and he's like...
He was so annoying. The first person that just really pissed me off was Viserys.
Yeah.
Viserys, yeah. Daenerys.
He was an angel compared to... And Cameron warned us. He was like, oh, you think he was bad.
Yeah. So but yeah, he pissed me off. Khal Drogo kind of pissed me off at first too. But then when he actually, like, you know, I just don't really like the idea of objectifying women in that sense. But then, when he grew to actually, like, you know, appreciate Daenerys, and like they seemed like they were really like actually hitting it off.
Yeah,
you know?
they were. All right, we don't gotta get
He seemed to actually like care about her past just her body. And I was like, okay, you know, like that was cool. He still did have his pride, you know, about like, oh yeah, that's my son in her stomach right now, kind of thing, and you know, pretty much like showing like, you know, like that's all me. But yeah, and then I think another huge, and this is probably like the biggest insight that I've received from the show, is that we are never as united as we are when we're facing a common enemy.
Okay.
Yeah,
war is not against flesh and blood.
That's right. It's against the principalities or the night walkers.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
And a lot of people don't believe in the night walkers, you know. Some of them, they have to see it. You know, some of us have seen the night walkers, and we can't go telling just everybody that we've seen it, because then we're gonna lose credibility. You know what I mean?
And then some of us, we have it, but we just know, we got faith that, look, I've heard stories. Okay, that's all I need to. But I don't need you to put him in a little box so he can jump out at me. Okay.
Yeah, facts. Like, I'll take your word for it. You're an honest person.
Right.
I believe that you're smart. You know what you're talking about. You do your research and stuff like that. I bet. You said that there's some night walkers that's coming after us or whatever. I'm a believer.
Right, I'm not too proud
it's
to
not
beg.
Some legendary thing, you know. Like, and that was one thing that kind of like upset me. Like when I was paying attention to the Meisters, those people really upset me, because they were so, there's nothing wrong with being skeptical, but when you're overly skeptical in that sense, and to the point that you're ridiculing what people are attesting to be true, I think that that's a problem. It doesn't really like matter like what religion you are, you know, like to like ridicule it, or lack of religion in that sense, you know, to ridicule in a condescending manner, in my opinion, like that's just not cool. I love that Jon Snow had a focus, you know what I mean? That he went and he saw Daenerys. Daenerys was talking about bend the knee, bend the knee, bend the knee. And everyone's just trying to get to this Iron Throne that was nothing. It's nothing, you know what I mean? Jon Snow, the person who actually had right to claim the Iron Throne, he didn't even want it. He didn't even want to become the Lord of the King of the North. He just wanted to defeat the Night Walkers. And when he set his mission on that, nothing else even mattered. And I felt like that was like a really good idea of like transcendence. Even you could even liken it to Bran's transcendence, only Bran, he was on some whole other stuff. Jamila wasn't really too fond of Bran. I felt like that was like a very transcendent view. Like once you see that as humanity, a whole bunch of things that we think that matter right now don't really matter when it comes to like the bigger picture of things. That's what it is. And like that allows us to be able to put our differences in opinion, our differences in color, our differences in families that we come from, our differences in ranking, all of that aside, so that we can band together, use our best abilities to be able to attack this common enemy of ours that we have. So that was like one of the greatest insights that I saw. And then I also saw like even just a whole bunch of like other things, such as like how vengeance can really like eat you up inside. You know, like when this penultimate episode in this just last season, or this current season right now, where we have the Hound fighting the Mountain. That was sad. You know what I mean? Like, but he knew, the Hound told, like, both him and Arya, they were both going after, like, you know, Cersei and the Mountain. But the Hound knew like where this was gonna end him up, and he still decided like, no, but I want to finish this. I don't care if I die. I'm going to use vengeance up until my last breath. To me, that's kind of senseless, you know. But whatever. I'm glad that Arya, she was able to like put aside her vengeance, her need for vengeance, and just continue to go live on life. And sometimes you have to, like, I don't know if Arya actually forgave Cersei, but there's just some things that you don't really have to pursue all the way up until your last breath of death. I really appreciated the flashbacks / visions that Bran was receiving, because they really helped further paint exactly like what was going on throughout the story. So a lot of the pieces that, you know, we weren't really necessarily understanding from the beginning, when you pay attention to these visions, and you're able to at least better, not completely all the time, but to better piece together like what exactly is going on. I'm not that good with names, and so a lot of times like when they were saying all these last names and stuff like that, I was like, you know, like, and it took me like a long time to like really catch on. Kind of like what Jamila said. To me, I'd say that I didn't even necessarily really actually enjoy the show too much. Overall, I didn't really necessarily like enjoy it like that much. That's just as a personal preference. I'm not saying like objectively like, oh, this show sucks and the writers are bad or whatever. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But I started to most enjoy it, I think, within season 7, maybe around like even like season 6, like when stuff started to like come together more, and especially like when we were seeing like, you know, certain characters who were being developed in different areas of the world now coming together. It's like, okay, that's cool, because it's almost like seeing those movies where they have like people from different universes, like the Marvel movies and stuff, and they all come together now because you're watching each of these characters in different realms, and now you're especially as an FE dom, like you're seeing how they're all going to interact and who's going to get along with who and stuff like that.
Whenever people would pass people and not know it, I'm like, oh my gosh, like you literally just missed your sister.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, overall, that's kind of the essence of what I thought about the show. Finale still to be played. And I guess speaking of which, this latest episode where Daenerys just went haywire. Man, that was crazy. But it wasn't unexpected. Like, I think, like, I understand that a lot of people are upset about it and everything, but to me, I still like Daenerys, to be honest. Call me crazy. Not that I'm saying like, oh, she's an angel and she's perfect. No. But I like a lot of things about her, and I can see and understand why she did that. Do I approve of it? No. Would I, as an advisor, have like given her like otherwise? Yeah. But
they all did.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, you know, I still really admire her. I think that she has like really great drive. I think that she also did have the best intentions. I feel like, and this is kind of like giving away, you know, her type, but I feel like she was just having a really hard time bringing together FI and TE in a good manner. She had a hard time like balancing it, like between controlling people and then actually like having them be able to be free. So you made the joke before the video, like I was saying like how Daenerys, like she was just misguided and everything, and she was like, yeah, like she'll say like, you know, yeah, you're all free, but bend the knee. You know, like that. Like, how are you gonna like set these people free? But then you're like, but I'm your queen. I'm your queen. Like, you're like forcing yourself. While somebody like Jon Snow, I believe that he really did believe in like the actual freedom and everything. And comparing these two was very fascinating for me. And I think that that'll be discussed more throughout the part 2 of this video, the live stream, where we can discuss with you guys and you guys can ask questions and stuff like that. But yeah, and I really liked Varys. He was actually one of my favorite characters. I really liked Bronn. He was really cool. And I liked Jaime. I loved Jon Snow as well. There were some pretty cool characters in this show, you know, so that was good. I really liked Ned Stark too, like before.
Oh yeah, he's the GOAT.
Yeah, as soon as he left, I was like, dang, this is the type of show.
I know, I was like, oh shoot.
I really didn't think they were gonna like.
Me either.
Yeah, I thought something was gonna happen, but yeah, because I was like, yo, this is too early. He was like the only good person at the time.
Literally.
And they just killed him, so that was very sad. I love Tyrion. I think that he's awesome. And yeah. So I think that now, do you have anything more to say before we jump into listing off the types?
Yeah, actually I do. I completely forgot about this. But I think the main thing that I took away from the show, or I don't know if I should say took away, but like...
Was reminded of?
No, like the main concept that I feel like was very deliberately and heavily pushed that I do appreciate, even though, anyway, is just the strength of womanhood. Like, it's not by accident that pretty much every realm, their best leader was a woman. Like Daenerys, Cersei, dang, I don't remember her name. Greyjoy, I remember her first name.
Oh yeah, I forgot her name too.
Yara.
Yeah.
I feel like there were even I mean, she wasn't better, but she ended up taking over. What was her name? The one from Luther?
The one from Luther. Oh, Ilaria.
Yeah. Ilaria, even though she killed the prince, she was definitely, just in terms of like generally speaking, probably the worst out of all of them. And then you have Melisandre. She wasn't technically a ruler, but she might as well have been, because Stannis didn't know what he was doing. He was all bark, barely. So yeah,
that's
there might have been.
Really rule. When you're the sidekick.
Yeah, she's the mastermind.
Varys was doing that. He was the ruler of the whole entire show.
Low key.
That's why he was talking about that in that one scene where he said that he doesn't go after all the pleasures and everything.
Yeah.
That way he's able to stay, like, he has like a clarity, you know, that post-nut clarity, except that you don't have to have like the post-nut behind it. We're speaking figuratively here. He really had that type of clarity to be able to focus and do what was right for the realm. And I believe that he really did have the best intent, and he was able to follow it through. All the way up until his death. Like, he knew, he didn't even have like a pride about it. Like, he said, I really do hope that I'm wrong, which sometimes it comes to that. And for those of us who are, you know, right, oftentimes, a lot of times, people who are often right, they don't like being right, because then it's like, dang, I knew that this person was going to betray me. I knew that this was just going to go that way, but I kind of wanted to give the opportunity for this to not happen. I was hoping that I was wrong so that you could tell me I told you so, and I would actually be happy that I was wrong, so that, because, you know, if I'm predicting something bad to happen, my pride is not going to be like, let this bad thing happen just so that I can say I told you so. Let's hope that I'm wrong if we still do not heed my warnings and things actually play out in a manner that will not be the best for everyone.
Oh, and even Marjorie, if she didn't, and she's the one who knew that something was off. I was low-key rooting for her. She was like weird and like sneaky, but I was low-key rooting for her. I don't know. I didn't expect her to die that soon, but at the same time, kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, she would have been a good queen, even though she had her own agenda.
Yeah.
Robert Baratheon, he was like a drunk, and then Joffrey
he was horrible.
Yeah, Joffrey was crazy. Tommen didn't have a spine. He was a sweetheart, but he just didn't have a spine, which he would have grown into it for sure, because he was already starting to.
Yeah, and Marjorie was his side, so that was helping him also.
Yeah, Daenerys's father was like the Mad King, and her brother was weird, and then Yara's brother, you know, he went through his whole thing with Ramsay, and then so like literally it kind of, other than Ned, it kind of just showed how like guys suck, which is like I was like, okay, but I see like their intentions behind it is just to show that like the world probably was a good chance that it would be better if women were ruling it, or at least just give a different perspective like of how things could have been if women were given, you know, that thing. And I don't really know, maybe this is me being naive, but there's a part of me that's like, do people really treat women like this back then? Like, and did they really,
thinking that too.
Really talk to them like that, and like really talk about them like that? Like, I know women, like, we're definitely lower in like the system or whatever, for sure. Like, I understand that, and it's always been like that. But I was like, are they being extra, or is this really how it was? Like, really, really, really.
Yeah. And
not just kind of like systematically, but it was like, you know, like, y'all really wilding out here. Oh, Khal Drogo too. Daenerys, you know, he died. So, yeah, that was one thing I noticed about the show, and that I appreciated. You know, it kind of started to get wild, but with like Cersei and then Daenerys this last episode, but they were, in terms of like their, what is it, predecessors or whatever, they were like the best. They had like the best head on their shoulders and had the best vision for things and stuff like that. Other than the girl who was Oberyn's wife or whatever, and she just killed the king because of the vengeance thing we're talking about. Like, just let it go. Like, it's like it is what it is, and in a weird way, it was their justice. It's not like they just went off and killed your brother. Like, I mean, I would have been pissed too. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel like there's some battles you just gotta let it go. You can't just be killing kings out here because your feelings hurt. But anyway, strong female leaders, both in terms of like their actual roles and just like their them as actors, like having really good like female roles and everything. Like, they're all really great actors. So
I agree with that. Even like one thing that I really loved, despite her not ending up being the best ruler after all, I loved how Jon Snow was willing to submit and have Daenerys as the queen. And this isn't to go to the other side as well, like, you know, I feel like I have to put this disclaimer out there, because there's a whole bunch of women out there like, yeah, you know, men suck and we don't need no more men rulers, like every ruler should be women. We're not saying that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's low-key kind of what the agenda was in the show, because at first it was cool, but then I was like, oh no, they're like trying to push this, but that's not true. But at the same time, it's like, no, but I think that's kind of what Jon Snow is there for, to kind of like even the playing field a little bit. Like, you know, not all men are bad, okay? Yeah,
like we can acknowledge that there are some bad, like a lot of bad men rulers out there and everything, but I wouldn't say that we should annihilate every single man ruler and like let's replace them all with women. But I also wouldn't say like let's not have any women rulers either. I'm just saying like let's look at people's character, whether male or female, equality. And if you're a good ruler, you're a good ruler. That's it.
I just didn't understand. And I was telling this Denzel as we were watching it, and then they confirmed it later on in the show. Like, I just don't understand why Daenerys and Jon Snow just couldn't like share their. I don't understand why it was so deep. Like,
they explained it. Like, you know, Tommen and Marjorie. Like, Marjorie was the queen, and she pretty much was like ruling too.
Exactly.
In a way. I didn't understand why Jon Snow, like, he was still gonna be their king if that was the case, at least from how I understood it. But I don't know. You guys drop it in the comments and explain to us if we missed something.
What's interesting, you know, I just realized none of the Night Watcher like leaders were women. They were all guys.
Oh yeah, because they were the ones who had to go out for war and all of that. You know, they didn't remember. They weren't even letting Arya learn how to fight. Arya and Brienne, they had
That's
to knight
true.
her in like the last thing, and that's why we have a lot of people complain
I like
about
Brienne,
how
too.
like superheroes, like all of the men, like the men are being praised and everything. You guys have to understand that most superheroes were created in an era where men were being sent out to be soldiers. It wasn't the women. Women weren't even allowed to do that, and they didn't even want to, from my knowledge. But the men were being sent out, whether they liked it or not, to be soldiers. And then that's when you get like, a Captain America and, stuff like that, where it's like in becoming the soldiers and they become the superheroes. So of course the men being sent out to be the soldiers to protect everyone, they were looked at as also superheroes, or they were the models of superheroes. Now we have a whole bunch of female superheroes and stuff, which is good, but people are still complaining a lot of days. They're like, oh, we're not giving them enough credit, which could be true, but it's hard to kind of like use that element from the history of how superheroes were made and kind of like, especially like with the comic books, to kind of like bring it into today's era. So we're making strides toward equality, but
You can't reshape history.
yeah, exactly, that's what it is. And so we have to keep that in mind as well. But once again, I am all for women rulers, you know what I mean? I'm just not for them replacing all men rulers, and I'm not for men. If you're a good ruler, you're a good ruler.
Yeah.
That's it. So now I'm about to read off the types. And for some of them, I have Enneagram types, some more specific, some not as specific. Because I put Enneagram types on some of them doesn't mean that I have it for everybody. So you will hear some Enneagram types on them, because the Enneagram types is what flavors a lot of what it is. And you have to, as you're listening to this, like I know that online a lot of people are probably going to be disagreeing with a lot of the types that I have here, but what I'll just say to preface this is that I literally came into the show, and I think it helped a lot too that we watched it like within 3 weeks, so there was no like yearly breaks, but like
I don't know how y'all did it.
Yeah, I just like kept on watching. We would binge watch from like 4:00 p.m. up until like 1 a.m. Just like watching and then talking about the types and stuff like that, discussing with other people. And
I would have been so confused. Like, who is her? Who?
Yeah.
Lady who?
Yeah, them recaps though.
Yeah, no, the recaps, shout out to those, because that's...
The biggest thing to pay attention to is like understanding the difference between Enneagram typing, behavior, and also MBTI functions. So like a lot of people that I've been seeing online, they've been using a whole bunch of the stereotypes and the dichotomies, and they're getting the Enneagram stuff like mixed up with the behavior and the dichotomies, all of that. And it's not to say necessarily that they're all wrong, but I just disagree with them, and I feel like upon further looking at it, you'd be able to understand like, okay, this is why. So I'm going to list off the characters right now, and then you guys can leave your comments and everything, and we're going to have a part 2 live stream. I don't know when that'll be yet. Maybe after enough people have watched this, we're going to announce a date where we're going to come up and we're going to discuss with all of you guys in the live chat and everything as we're having the live stream on why we chose certain types. And we're open to changing our mind, at least for a lot of them. Not Jamila. She's facts only. I'm about being right. I'm about having accuracy. And so if you present to me a good enough case, then I'm like, oh, okay, and it's not just about like me actually being right. Okay, so that's enough talk. Let's go. Drogo, ESTP. Tyrion, ENTJ, 7 wing 6, social sexual. Joffrey, ENTJ 8, he was unhealthy. Daenerys, ISFP 8 wing 9. Sansa, ISFJ. Viserys, most likely ESFP. Lord Stark, ISFJ. Jaime, ESTP 3 wing 2. Lord Tywin, INTJ. King Robert, ESFP 7. Arya Stark, ESTP. The Hound, ISTP. Syrio, ESFP. Melisandre, INFJ. Cersei, we're leaning on INTJ, but we could also see the case for ISFP. I can see the case for ISFP. But definitely one of those two. She's just unhealthy version of that. We could probably discuss that more in the live stream. Marjorie, ENFJ. Jon Snow, ISFP 1 Wing 9. Very important. Theon, ESFP. Although Reek might have become an ISFJ. Maybe. Although people can't really change typing. Lysa, INFP. Podrick, ISFJ. Jaqen Hagar, ISTP. Shay, ESFP. Stannis, ISTP. Peter Baelish, ESFJ. Varys, INFJ. Asha, ENTP. Samuel Tarly, INTP, although I could see the case for INFP as well. Bran, INFJ, all the way. Bronn, ESTP. Ilaria, INFP. Catelyn Stark, ISTJ. Brienne, ISTJ. Oberyn, ESFP. Ramsay, ENFP. Missandei, ISFP. Olenna, ESFP. Tommen, ISFP. The High Sparrow, ENFJ. Jorah, ISFJ. Grey Worm, ISFP. Earl Greyjoy, ENTP. Lyanna Mormont, ESTJ. Tormund, ESTP. Sir Davos, most likely ISFJ. And Yara, I'm thinking ESTJ. That one was like, I just added her actually, and I was like kind of like off the cuff. But yeah, that's our list for types right now.
Well, I thought Drogo was ISTP.
Oh, we probably did actually. You did mention that. You're right. Yeah, he probably was ISTP. I just can't see. I guess I can't see past. You know the actor's real name? I'm bad with names. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I just thought you know off the top of your head. But the actor, he plays Aquaman as well.
Jason
who's
Momoa.
ESTP. Yeah, like he's just so ESTP, and his SE presence is so heavy that I feel like it's hard for him to play ISTP. At least for me. Like even though the writing may have like placed him as ISTP, I just couldn't see him as like not SE
Not
dumb.
that
But I think that he is.
Can't be quiet.
Yeah.
He didn't talk.
Yeah, he just had like I'm saying.
I know what
he
you're
had so much
saying,
presence,
but
yeah.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that the writing intended for him to be ISTP. So yeah, we could scratch that one and put him as ISTP. But then the actor is ESTP, which if you've watched my video on typing fictional characters, I talk about this where there's 3 different aspects. There's understanding what the writer intended the person to be, understanding what the person's actual type is, and then the creativity that they're kind of like adding on to like their own little twist. The actors are adding on to their own.
I actually typed Tommen as ISFJ. But I mean, he could be ISFP. I just feel like he was ISFJ, but
yeah,
he
I didn't
wasn't
see
really in the picture that much.
Yeah, I didn't see like TI from him, like TI tertiary. I saw him as like, but I could probably see the case. Yeah, I could see that. It's not something that's like what. Like how I see a lot
it
of
would
these
definitely
people,
be
like, online.
between one of the two.
Yeah. But alright, y'all. Leave your comments, questions, concerns. Let me know what y'all think. If you respectfully disagree on something, then present your case for it.
Oh, and that little girl. She was a great leader as well.
Oh yeah, Lyanna. I think I already said her name. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
She was hilarious.
I love that.
She'd be like, "What?" All right, y'all. Thanks for watching this. Enjoy. Well, I think y'all by the time I'm done with this, because now I have to go to work, so I'm gonna be able to post it. So hopefully by the time that you watch this, you guys did enjoy, or not enjoy, the finale of Game of Thrones. But this has been great, and we'll see you guys for the live stream.
Bye.